So if you could say your name and how you spell it out, and how you want to be identified.
Okay, Linda James Myers, LindaJamesMyers. I'm a professor at Ohio State University as well as a past president of the Association of Black Psychologists, and I'm currently on the board as Elder of Elders.
Okay, and I'm going to ask them that. You can go.
Would you kindly give us permission to use your image in any and all forms of media, here or now or hereafter created, in perpetuity? It just means, can we use this? It's a legal thing, just so that we have your permission to use it. You know, it's
Yes.
going to be on YouTube, it's going to be on our website.
Sure.
Thank you. What does what is emotional emancipation for people of African ancestry mean to you?
Most emotional emancipation to me really has to do with the fact that we as African people have gone through almost 400 years of the most brutal, vicious form of brutality and dehumanization ever known in the history of humankind. Yet we haven't ever looked at what the impact of that is, and we kind of act as though it has no impact, when in actuality it impacts everyone's life on a daily basis. And so emotional emancipation to me really has to do with bringing to conscious awareness this history and acknowledging it and examining its potential impact in our daily lives, and then liberating ourselves.
How would we do that?
Liberation has, for me, the implications for our, can I change? I want to change my answer to that. Oh, you can cut this and slice it, everyone. Okay.
Only to make you look wonderful.
Okay.
That's right.
What that would look like to me is liberating our consciousness. So for the most part, we don't really realize the extent to which our thinking has been controlled. There's a brilliant African-American psychologist by the name of Bobby Wright who coined the term menticide. Menticide means the systematic destruction of a people's mind and a people's culture. And so as African people throughout the continent and the diaspora, we are menticidal, meaning that our consciousness has been controlled in such a way that we were moved from our own cultural frame to that of our captors. Because if we maintained our own cultural frame, we didn't make very good slaves. So it was imperative the slave captor shift our consciousness from our own cultural mindset to a mindset that made us readily manipulable and controllable. So liberation to me would be taking our power back, beginning to define reality for ourselves, and defining it in a way that's more congruent with our cultural heritage and ancestry, which interestingly, by the way, also seems to be what the height of modern science, Eastern philosophies, and our common sense kind of leads to in terms of what is the most healthy and productive mindset.
What does community healing mean to you?
Community healing has to do with me pursuing that liberation of my own consciousness, and then taking on a liberated consciousness, and then attracting to myself other people who are also committed to the same endeavor, and relying on them to build community, that beloved community, if you will, and the support that we need to go forth for ourselves, others in our larger community, our families, and certainly future generations.
Why is this important?
African people throughout the world aren't doing well. And and what I mean by that is that, for example, for us African people in America, we have the lowest, the poorest health outcomes. We have high poverty rates. Our education suffers. So it's necessary, because all of those things that we see common in our communities today aren't a function of who we are as a people. They're a function of who we have become by virtue of this wretched history that we have inherited. And so emotional emancipation is essential for us to recover and heal from the trauma that we have been exposed to and continue to be exposed to on a daily basis, and then put in place mechanisms so that we can inoculate ourselves and then begin to move from our own center as opposed to responding to someone else's definition.
Sweet. Can you talk a little bit about the Tuskegee Community Healing Summit, what happened, and what came out of it practically that might be usable by people?
The Tuskegee Healing Summit is really one of the more exciting things that I think has happened in a very long time, when you have a local community coming together with a national professional organization, and then the Community Healing Network who's committed to healing. When you have those three forces coming together to collaborate and strategize about how we can affect emotional healing and bring that expertise to bear on solving the problems that confront us as African people, the synergy and the spiritual connections and the way relationships have unfolded and opportunities have unfolded to make this happen kind of lets you know, there must be some divine forces at work, and certainly the ancestors must be very pleased to make this possible. And so the Tuskegee Summit is something that I think we in the association have always dreamed about as a possibility, and Tuskegee becomes the place where that can happen. I understand Tuskegee means peaceful warrior, and in actuality we are engaged in a spiritual war, and it's something that oftentimes people are reluctant to face or talk about, but the evil that exists in this society and the world today is just pervasive. And so being then, the people at the lowest rung of the ladder in that social hierarchy probably suffer the most. And so the Tuskegee Healing Summit creates the opportunity for people who have the capacity to think about how we can implement changes and models and ways to heal our people. Really provides us the opportunity to just do that. So we listened to the community and heard what they had to say and what needs to happen. We brought our own expertise. We've been thinking about this for a very long time and got the opportunity to see how what we've been thinking about fits this particular community. And then you have such a history at Tuskegee with George Washington Carver, who just certainly moved from a different space that is very much tied to our cultural ancestry and tradition. Booker T. Washington, who wanted people to be educated and wanted them to develop industry, and the monument talks about him lifting the veil. I think what the Emotional Emancipation Project does is lift a second veil, because for all that Washington knew at the time, he certainly prepared with the Institute the opportunity for education and industry. But what he couldn't have known is that the implications of that would be some 50 to 100 years later. The education that he sought may not be the education we need today. In fact, the outcomes that he anticipated may not be exactly what he thought they would be. So now we, as people in this place and time, have the opportunity to take what he taught, what he valued and believed, to the next level for the needs of our people today.
What concretely would you say came out of the summit in terms of something that people can use?
Well, you know, we have certainly developed a model, a framework, from which we can really begin to roll out emotional healing circles. And we have also come to strategize about how this model can not only be implemented in Tuskegee, but really throughout the Black world. What we've begun to see is that this is an initial step and a process that's developmental and has long-term implications. And as a psychologist, we see we're not going to heal emotionally tomorrow or even a year, but in the long term, we have a foundation now in place that we'll be able to monitor in a sequential kind of way and look at the developmental processes that people really undergo as they begin to take their power back and liberate their own minds and shift their consciousness from the consciousness of a fragmented, debilitating worldview to a consciousness that's really more congruent with their ancestry, that's much more holistic and integrated and fully acknowledges the spiritual aspect of being.
What would you say to someone who today says, I love what you're saying, I'd like to, what would you suggest that I do to start or continue my own healing journey, emotional healing journey?
What I would say is they begin to engage in what I call a psychoeducational process of belief systems analysis. The first thing that they would want to do is to begin to think about their own belief system and examine the extent to which their current belief system is a function of dominant culture socialization or mis-socialization, as it be. If they begin to do that analysis and they begin to see, I'm really tired of thinking of myself as an object who can be identified and evaluated based on how I look, my income, my position, my education, how much I got, where I got it. And I really do want to be seen as a spiritual being having a human experience. And I really do want to see and feel myself to be an intrinsically worthy being. Probably what I need to do is shift my belief system from the dominant cultures to a more African-centered way of thinking and being in the world. And that process of shifting consciousness is what I would suggest they begin to engage in. And I've written a couple of books about this, so it's hard to condense it into...
What would you recommend?
Well, they might want to read Understanding an Afrocentric Worldview, Introduction to an Optimal Psychology, or Our Health Matters, Creating a Climate and Culture of Optimal Health, or they probably might want to look at, and I forgot the name of my third book.
We'll come back. We'll come back to that. We can do that, right? What's your most urgent message to people who are people of African ancestry? Most urgent message?
Take your power back and begin to define reality for yourself. Think for yourself, and then you will begin to create that which you think.
Your third book?
That's terrible. I'm having a senior moment here.
Let me say this. I hope I get to the day where I forget my third book.
And it's the most recent one.
I remember what my third book was.
I can't think of that.
I aspire to that.
Oh, gosh. Okay, thank you. Blessed Assurance. Deep thought in the wisdom and tradition of our ancestors.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Very, very. So we have such a different, different ways of coming at these questions. He's gonna
He's going to have to really work hard to clean that up.